I wrote this book, I didn't actually have these pictures. I wrote it as a, obviously an adult book. And normally adult books don't have pictures. I mean, some do, but most of them actually don't.
We won't talk about those.
Well, and when I did it, I actually thought that it was very hard for people to go from one to another because they would have to visualize what the house looks like. And so I decided that it would be, because houses in people's lives are really, really important, I decided that I would get an artist to draw the pictures. I had photographs of what the houses I wanted them to look like, but sort of changed in an artistic way. And so that is why we've got pictures in this book. Just pictures at the top, at the first chapter that they were used, but I think it made the book much more interesting to actually see and be able to compare the different types of houses that these people lived in. Now, the people who lived in View Street, Jack and his mother Annie, his grandfather, whose name was Old Douglas, and his wife, who was an Aboriginal lady, and her granddaughter, who lives with them as well. So those people who are quite disparate from each other live in this house. Now, when Old Douglas came to Australia in around about 1948, he buys this house in a whim and he almost loses it because he spent so much money on it. But gradually he gets a job very quickly, and he's an education trained, and he works at he's a lecturer at a college. But after a while he needs to spread his wings, and so he applies for conferences in all sorts of other countries. And suddenly he gets one in India. And from View Street, which is sort of as it is, he takes a trip and he goes to India. And this little paragraph is him on his first trip to India ever. And after his pre-journey research, even after Bermondsey during the war, even after the self-effacement embedded in his thoughts, pre-landing of the Douglas DC-3, India shocks him. The dust and grime of the Delhi airport shocks him. The customs officer who asks if he can keep one of his shirts shocks him. Old Delhi railway station shocks him. The colonies of whole families sleeping on the platform, waiting or not waiting, their heads resting on faded holdalls, disturb him, jolting him from jet lag. The colonies of rats that scrounge on the tracks and whose instant and simultaneous dispersal signal the approach of a train fascinate and revolt him. The ancient coolie wearing only a loincloth and a flattened turban, who insists on carrying his baggage on his head, humiliates him. Finding the right bogey frustrates him. Not knowing how many rupees, or is it merely pesos, to place in the brown outstretched hand makes him feel foolish. Climbing the narrow ladder to his assigned top-tier sleeper over the top of a family of 4 embarrasses him. The thought that engulfs him is, thank God the train was made by the British. So that is introducing him to a main character who actually kind of sets the scene for the whole business now of the linking between life in India, life in Australia.
Wonderful. So do we now move on to...
We can now move on to, which is the next one? We can just go down in order to the shack, and I'll just talk a little bit about that, and then I'll go down to Rose Cottage, I'll do the same. And then the next one I'll speak about will be the residency.
So did you want me to share the second, the shack?
Yep.
Shack?
Yep. Yes, the shack.